So good morning, everybody. Welcome along to our class. As you can see, we're engaged in the study of meditation, and we'll do some very shortly. So the meditation session begins with us setting a direction, which means basically being clear about why you want to meditate, why you want to engage in a spiritual path. So let's begin to do that. And this just requires us, first of all, to become comfortable in our seat. So adjust your posture in whichever way you need to, and end up sitting comfortably and relaxed. So your back will be straight and your shoulders just hanging down easy. Your feet should be like flat on the floor or on a cushion. And you can place your hands wherever you like. As for your eyes, you can close them or keep them partially open. And when you are comfortable and relaxed, just feel the body breathing itself. So your awareness is a witness to the body breathing itself. And as the body breathes itself, you'll be able to hear sound, and you'll be able to feel the movements of the belly and the chest and the shoulders as you inhale and exhale breath. So your awareness is focused upon the body and its movements and the feelings that take place when you inhale and exhale breath. And as the relaxation response is felt by the body, and while you're focused on that, it's very easy to also imagine the appearance of enlightened beings above you. So you can imagine these beings as figures of golden light, and they include the Buddha, the Bodhisattvas, the Arahats, and the yogis, and the deities. And all these figures are basically embodiments of good qualities. And so while these appear in the space in front of you, sort of about the level of your eyebrows, or you imagine that, you can also imagine that you're surrounded by your parents, close friends and family, difficult people, and strangers. And you can accept that we all have a shared desire for happiness and freedom from suffering. And that we, the people who surround us, our wishes and the deities appearing before us, exist dependently as agents, objects, and actions. And being dependent upon each other, our existence as separate, independent, and objectively existing entities is an illusion. And we possess the wisdom that can see beyond the illusion of these dualistic appearances. And we can combine this wisdom of ours with love and compassion. And when we do that, we can abandon the ridiculous ideas we have which concern our indifference towards others or being attached to them. And when we can let go of these wrong ideas, we begin to put an end to the causes of our suffering. We can accept an inner and outer refuge. So our inner refuge are the qualities of wisdom, our natural intelligence, compassion, love, kindness, all good mental qualities. And our outer objects of refuge are the teachers, the teachings, and the spiritual community. I want you to sort of think that you want to develop your wisdom and your compassion and every other skill you have to put an end to your own suffering and its causes and to help everyone else do the same. And until you're able to fully do that, you depend upon enlightened beings, their teachings, and their existence as a community. And say along with me, I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Now imagine that in response to this wish of ours, colourful nectars and lights pour out of the hearts of these enlightened beings above us, and they shower down upon us. And whatever wrong views, unskilled behaviours, these are just washed away. Our body, speech and mind are being cleansed by the love and compassion and wisdom of these enlightened beings. And we find it very easy to recollect the four immeasurable thoughts of compassion, love, joy, and equanimity. And we decide to develop these within ourselves and to establish all living beings within those four states. And so we say, may all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness that is without suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And in response to our wish, again, colourful nectars and lights shower down from the radiant beings of the refuge field. And whatever personal distress we feel, whether we're overexcited or indifferent, all obstacles to our spiritual growth are washed away. And cleansed by enlightened wisdom and compassion, we glow with an inner clear light. And radiating goodness, we recollect those beings above us, the field of refuge, and wishing to accumulate the two collections of merit and wisdom to become enlightened, we say, reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since the beginning of time, and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of psychic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own and others' merits to the great enlightenment. Now we recollect that although everything seems very real, it's not as real as it seems. Our reality is made up of ideas given names. So now we want to let go of clinging to our ideas and these names that represent our reality. And by doing so, let go of greed and selfishness and ignorance. And in the absence of these qualities, we see a wonderful pure land appear, which we offer towards the Buddhas and the enlightened beings for the benefit of others. And we say, this ground, anointed with perfumes, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field of offer. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamnayatayami. So we've let go. And the Buddha accepts the offering. And we ask the Buddha to help us stop all the wrong thoughts we might have and to let all right thoughts flourish. And whatever obstacles we face, whether they be inside, outside, or secret, to be removed. We petition the Guru Buddha to bless us and all beings like us, to develop impartiality, to recognize everyone as our own dear mother, and to remember her kindness and wish to repay it. And then by feeling love and compassion, be determined to awaken ourselves for the benefit of others. And so in response to this wish of ours, an emanation of the Buddha leaves his heart. It moves through space and comes to rest above the crown of your head. So facing in the same direction you are, this emanation begins to descend. And it comes down through your skull and through your throat and enters into your chest and rests above your heart. And its radiance begins to expand, filling your chest and your arms, your legs, and your head and your mind with light. And the light goes out through the pores of your skin and begins to fill the 10 directions of space. And the light pervades all of space, so that wherever sentient beings abide, they're enveloped in this light and utterly transformed into a fully awakened state. And a sense of accomplishment arises within you. Then from 10 directions of space, the light begins to withdraw and it re-enters your heart. And you can hear the sounds of passing traffic, and you know you're sitting on a seat. And your body is breathing itself. And you acknowledge that this meditation is one of imagination, which has imprinted the mind, put in place a condition for your awakening and the bringing about of the benefit of all sentient beings. So you breathe in through your nostrils and exhale through your mouth and let your eyes flutter open. And bring your awareness back to this room. And we begin to have a look at what we've covered in the last few weeks. So we began by looking at what meditation is and what its purpose is and the different types. So the purpose of meditation is to accustom the mind to virtue, to bring the untamed mind under your own control, and to make it serviceable in this life for your own benefit and for the benefit of others. Now, the different motives we have for doing this, the one I've just spoken of was the greatest motivation, is to bring about your own enlightenment for the benefit of others. Sometimes it takes a bit of time to come to that understanding. So you might be just trying to be a happier person, and that's fine too. Meditation can do that for you. So we need to look at why we're doing what we're doing, and one of the major reasons for doing that is that if you can be very clear about what you're doing and your purpose is a valid one, a good one, you'll keep doing it. And there are many different types of meditation, but you can group them all into two. One is called stabilizing meditation, and the other is called analytical. Most times when you engage in these two types of meditation, they're sort of done together. So you stabilize the mind on an object, that's what we have been doing. You say a few things about it, or you pose a question about it and you try and answer it, and you keep the mind on the answer. we just did a meditation like this, stabilizing with the visualization. So we're imagining the enlightened beings are in front of us. We're trying to keep their presence in mind. And we said a couple of weeks ago, it's not really necessary in the beginning to actually have a clear picture of them. It's not like seeing with your eyes. So the major thing is to have a feeling that you're in the presence of enlightened beings. And there's going to be many obstacles you face when you try and do this. And we've been talking about some of those, and we'll be talking about some of them again today. When we finish a meditation, one of the most skillful things you can do is to recognize what you've done and direct it to the goal that you've set at the beginning of the meditation. So meditation is made up of three parts. There's the beginning, the middle, and the end. In the beginning, you set your motivation. You say, this is why I'm doing it, my purpose. Then you do the meditation. At the end of it, you say, well, I did it. And I want to, the result of this is this, and that's what I'm aiming for. So you talk to yourself again like that. Okay, so today, we're going to have a look again at stabilizing meditation and a couple of problems that come up. They are usually they're called restlessness and regret. Another problem you'll come up with again and again is called forgetfulness. The mind just wanders off its object and does its own thing. Now, there are antidotes to these three problems of restlessness, regret, and forgetfulness. So we'll have a look at those. And then we'll have a look at we call the second step towards serenity. So this picture that you can see here is a diagram of all of the 9 meditative stages you go through. 9 stages to cultivate what we call serenity practice. Serenity practice is just another name for stabilization. Right, so you're going to put your mind on the object and you're going to keep it there serenely. And when you finally get to the very top, the 9th stage, you experience a state of ease and bliss. It's very easy to do it. On the way, it's not so easy. So we'll talk about the second step today. Now, to present the class, I've relied on these books here, primarily these books and teachings that I've had in the past from my own mentors. Probably the easiest ones to read here are Following in the Buddha's Footsteps, Foundation of Buddhist Practice. You get a sort of an overview, but there's also some depth in it, well, quite a lot of depth, but it's easy to read and understand. Then after those, you'd want to probably have a look at The Attention Revolution by Alan Wallace. So he takes you through all these 9 stages, resulting in serenity. What's also very good with that is how he combines it with the 4 immeasurable thoughts. So oftentimes when we do these types of meditation, it takes a lot of mental effort, and it can be quite tiring for you. And so you don't want to do it for too long. You really want to try and get quality rather than quantity of time. And what Alan Wallace does very skillfully, I think, is that so you do something that's like stabilizing for a period of time, and then you enhance it with a compassion meditation or a kindness meditation or an equanimity or a joy meditation. So it's like you're trying to bring in this idea of these positive mental states and stabilizing them. Now, the real deep ones here are Study and Practice of Meditation and Walking Through Walls. They're both by the same author, and this same author, and this really get really into the nitty gritty. So deep questions and deep answers. And Walking Through Walls is probably the easier one to get your head around. They're all very, very good books, and if you want to get into this more deeper and be useful to read. Of course, even better is to have somebody that you know who's actually engaged in these deep states of stabilizing the mind, and then you have a conversation with them. That's the ideal thing. So let's have a look at, first of all, at some of these different problems. and then we'll, hello, and then we'll go on to the antidotes. So our first problem is restlessness. So this is a picture you probably recognise, you might have gone through yourself, right? I know I have. And this is when you're up all night or for hours at a time and your mind is just going, and you're thinking about all sorts of things. And it's very difficult to get to sleep. So the mind is restless. Now there are other types of restlessness can exhibit itself in other ways as well. So we have three major ways that restlessness can be known by yourself. The first and most obvious is physical movement. So if you go to sit down sometimes, it doesn't take a while before you start adjusting your body this way and that way, moving around a lot. Right? So that's in the session. But you can also be jumping around from activity to activity. So one of our meditation teachers, he becomes restless, and his restlessness displays itself as a movement towards the fridge. Yeah. And you might find you do the same. I know I do. Just do. So it's called restlessness, physical restlessness. Now we've got verbal restlessness too. So I remember meeting a young woman who was going to go off and do the meditation at Pomona. So it's a 10-day meditation course, and you don't talk. And when she found out, she said, I can't do it, I can't go. And all of her friends were saying, yeah, you couldn't do that. because that's right, she had to talk. You know? And she had to give it a go, and she lasted one day, and she came home because I just can't do it. There's some people that you just have to talk about what's going on, just the release, I guess, but it's called restlessness if you don't have control over it. Third, probably the most common one is this mental agitation. That's when you sort of think about all sorts of things. And often what you might find is really strange is that you don't actually think. The thoughts just arise. It's not like you decide, I'll think this and I'll think that. You're just sitting there, it's like, wow, they come one after another. Now, I know myself, this happens to, as soon as I wake up, my mind starts to race immediately. So I'm sitting there, so I if you make me a cup of tea, I have the tea and I start going on the breath, start to slow down. Like, okay, don't go and have a look at the computer. A few cups of tea, I go outside, I sit in the sun and just get the sun on my face and try and see if I'm thinking really fast or can I slow it down. And so I start off, like a bit like that. We need to slow down to meditate. That was meditation, the process of controlling yourself. Well, the first thing is to notice that you're not in control. That's the first noble truth. You're not in control, but you can get control. That's a real possibility. So one of the ways of getting control, especially with mental agitation, is to focus on something like the breath. In fact, the breath is the best object you can focus on in terms of mental agitation. The reason for that, it's a neutral object, and it's always there. So all you've got to do is just become aware of, while I'm breathing. And then you become very aware too when your focus is not on the breath, but it's on thinking again. So very quickly you can tell, oh, I'm thinking, oh, I forgot. So you try and find a place. What I often find is very easy is just put my hands on my tummy so I can actually feel it go in and out. It's just this, but sometimes it's got to be that basic. So this is just different forms of the expression of what we call restlessness. Now when we come to the next one, and what we've done here is combined it with restlessness, and then we'll look at it as separate. So they are two separate mental factors, but they're combined as one because the causes and their function and the antidote is the very same. That's why I wanted to bring them in together. So this next one is called regret. And as you can see, this slide says, if you possess the two kinds of regret of having not done what you should have done, or having done what you should not have done, because this regret attaches to the mind, it's the mark of a foolish person. So regret arises either towards the past or to the future. So again, you're distracted, right? You're not present. And it can be related to a whole lot of different things. It can be related to your friends or to your home life or to good times or bad times. And like I said, sometimes you'll notice you don't even deliberately think like it, but it just arises. And next thing you're thinking about stuff that happened 10 years ago, which you wish it hadn't. Or you were with this person and you did this and that, and I wish I hadn't. You know, you think of something again and you wish you had. So again, it's this mind that's often to the past or the present. You can also, yeah. Well, all of these are coming from a type of attention called distorted attention. So this term will come up, as you see, more and more. It's one of the deeper causes for restlessness, regret, nearly all the unserviceable ways you think. So here, this is taken from the book called Following in the Buddha's Footsteps by His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Venerable Thupten Chodron. And this is a book that's all based on developing these 9 stages. So here it says, of distorted attention to the unsettledness in the mind is the cause of restlessness and regret. That is, when there is an underlying sense of unease and you don't deal with it in a beneficial way, it becomes worry, fear, restlessness, regret, or anxiety. So in a bit more detail, regret. Yes.
Sue asked for the page number for that, please.
Page number is page 380, Sue. That's paragraph 5. As I said before, we did something we should not have done, or we did not do something we should have done. And so you have a sort of uncomfortable feeling arising with us. And of course, there's a type of energy that goes along with that. So when this comes up, what you'll find, of course, is you sort of dwell on it. You'll sit there and just think about it. And yeah, and it'll lead to anxiety and, maybe I was going to say depression, but just, I often notice it's like that, you just don't move for a while. And the mind sort of sinks. Again, from the same book, but this time on paragraph 6, Sue. So he says, this whole restlessness and regret are likened to being enslaved. Wherever a slave tries to go, someone prevents his freedom. Similarly, when guilt, shame, anxiety, and restlessness impose on the mind, you feel that there's nowhere safe to turn. And I know for myself, like I just sit in the bed. I don't get up or anything. I'm just sitting there dwelling on this type of thing.
Really, there's a real closing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
You just want to.
Yeah, that's how it feels like, isn't it? There's an inner thing and a sinking.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you'll know what this feels like. And so what often happens too is that you find is that you stop thinking and then the dwelling is on the feeling. So this is like a meditation on regret or guilt. You're becoming familiar, but with a non-virtue. It's this way of thinking, feeling, behaving is not a creator of happiness for you. It creates unhappiness, distress.
And is there a difference between regret and guilt?
Yes, there can be, for sure. So often, I've heard that guilt is a sort of anger turned inwards. And regret can have both a positive and a negative aspect to it. So it's good to regret foolish things that you've done, unskillful things, and then decide, I'm not going to do it. So it's not just, you don't just have the regret and go, bad me, and then go into guilt. You're just going to, the wonderful thing I found about the Buddha Dharma, it's not so much about you. It's about these mental states that create suffering for you. That's what we're really dealing with. So when you point your attention at yourself and focusing negatively upon yourself, you're doing it wrongly. This is not the way to go. It's not, that's what I'm saying. When you sit there, it's not like you're thinking, right? The thinking is taking place. That's the problem. So that's where you want to put your attention. You go, oh, it's not me. Like I'm under the control of these mental states. It's like I'm the slave, right? The masters are these mental states. They're the problem. So we go, okay, so these ones are bad masters. These ones don't like me. They're trying to support me. They're trying to, bring me to freedom. So these ones I need to support, and these ones I need to get away from. That's the mental states. In fact, I think the Bodhisattva's way of life is a great example of a person with a stick, and they hit you with a stick, and you ask yourself, well, do you get angry at the person or the stick? You go, well, the person, of course. But it's the stick that hurt you. So now when we've gone to the personal one, you're the cause of the stick, right? You're holding the stick, you've done it. It's the same here. You don't go, well, I'm at blame. No, the stick here is the mental affliction. There's the deeper cause. So you go, okay, that's what I've got to deal with. I need to put my energy there, acknowledge this particular ways of thinking or mental states I don't have any control over. They get control over me, over my mind in particular. And my life becomes very uncomfortable. And we feel that there's nowhere safe to turn. Which I think is quite interesting is when I hear that, I think, so that's why you take refuge, you turn to the refuge. So just as the mind can drive you to your own death, it can also drive you towards enlightenment. It's like when the mind's not under your control, big problems. But once you get the mind under your control, wow, wonderful.
Where do they come from?
Yeah. So no beginning.
They're external, outside, not me.
It's a great question though to ask. Because what you might find is that you assume they're coming from somewhere already, straight off just by asking the question, right? Where do they come from? And when you say that, it's like it seems like there's a real place they're coming from, isn't it? That's what they're looking for, right? Some sort of beginning comes from here. But when you look, there's no beginning. In fact, you won't even find them. That's the lovely thing about it, right? They don't actually exist in the way you think they do. They don't exist in the way they appear to you. And that's another big problem because that false apprehension of them, that's a great creator of your problem. That's what we call ignorance. Imagining them to exist in some way that they actually don't. And relating to them that way, and again, more problems. With all these mental states, these negative ones, there are basically three ways you can deal with them. One is you first of all have to identify them. Go, okay, this is regret or excitement or whatever. And now you've got these three options. One is you can oppose them with their opposite. And that's what's normally taught in the beginning, right? As I think, okay, so if I have this regret, how am I going to oppose it? What do I do to oppose it? It's got to be something I can do, right? So the simplest one is you come back to the breath because it's mental agitation, right? It's not thinking. You come, and that's the negative. You come to something neutral, which is your breath. So what you've actually done is you pull your mind off the regret and put it on something else. And we do this all the time. But my most common way is when I'm bored, I go to the movies. Right? Take my mind off my boredom. I want some excitement. Thanks. I go to the movies. Some of us just go to the fridge. That's what we're doing. Right? We're removing our attention from one object and putting it on another. And we change. It's really that simple. Right? So here we go, okay, so what's the place I should put my mind, and I will feel and have a different experience, and you do. It's the first way of learning. The second way is you can take what we call these negative mental states and accept them and find the value in them and create positive mental states in response to the negative. This is like, like when you go to the gym, for instance, you realize, oh, I'm not very strong or weak, I need to get my strength up. I'll go to the gym and do these exercises, and it's uncomfortable. But you do it because you know there's this great advantage to it, like dealing with your discomfort makes me strong physically. It's the same here. You go, no, I accept it. And this is what I'm going to do with it. So this is called transformation. We transform our attitude towards the mental state. We accept it and build on it. They call that thought transformation. The third method is, it's called basically awareness method. And what you do is you stare straight at it. Whatever arises, just put your attention on it and go, but what is this? You can't even say it falls apart. What falls apart is your idea of what it is. You find it's just an idea. And the idea has no solidity, no anything. And like I say, it collapses under your own awareness. These factors are all awareness created, right? Mental stuff. But you look at mental stuff, there's nothing to be seen, nothing to put your finger on, hand on.
It takes a lot of courage to look at it head on like that, to really look.
Yeah, but the lovely thing is, it only requires courage once. Because once you see it's not there, you know it's not there. And you can look any other time. It's like knowing the boogeyman's lying on the bed. How do you know that? I was so scared when I went over and looked under. And he's not there. The other thought he was in the closet. That's what I did. I'd be able to look in the closet too. Of course, I got really scared. You keep looking into the unknown, your imagination. And it wasn't there either. At that time I was a kid, I didn't have the mental comprehension to think, oh, God, I've made it all up. I still thought they might be real, but they just weren't there. But this time as adults, you get one or two blasts of this, you go, oh my God, that's so simple. That's my thing. I can do that anytime. I don't need to do anything other than go acknowledge it, go right. Where? And the mind just goes back to its natural state, open, clear. So whatever suits you, you try the different things out. Now to oppose restlessness and regret, there is a number of different things you can do. Like I said, the first one is just come back to your breath. Breath being neutral. And again, it's a simple thing of just taking your mind off the object that you're creating the difficulty, place it on another. What this also shows you that the mind can't hold two opposing objects at the one time. just can't do it, doesn't do it. Another phenomenon that's really useful here.
Glass half full or half empty or both.
As we say in Buddhism, it depends.
You're looking at it from the top or the bottom?
Yes, yeah. How are you looking at it? How am I looking at it? So breath meditation is good. Another very good one is what we call frustrations. This will release a lot of the energy associated with the negative ways of thinking that you've created for so long. It's a release of that energy. The other ways, like I said, is a very simple one. Pay attention. Just like I said, you don't think anything, just look straight at it. So there's one of the great stories that I remember, and I like this one. So there was this bloke who was a great thief and a robber in Tibet, right? And one day he robbed somebody, but he shot the horse, and the horse, unbeknownst to him, was pregnant. So as the horse fell down and died, it gave birth to the foal. Right? And as it was doing it, the mare, was caring for the foal as it died. So this was enough. This guy gave up his life as a robber and changed and went right and then became a monk. And but he had a different way of practicing than everybody else. And so what everybody else would do was what everybody else did, was they'd all do their prayers together, they'd all practice together. And this bloke would hardly ever go off with him. Right? So he would just sit there at the table most of the time, and he'd just pull his robe over his head. He'd be sitting there like that. And they go, what are you doing? Right? He says, I'm waiting for the afflictions, I'm watching. When they arise, I spear them with my attention. When they don't arise, I relax. Man, that's great. That's right. That's what we should be doing. That was it. And there's lots of lovely stories told about him too. You know? So he's, of course, like I said, watching his mind all the time. There's another story like one day. So one day he was out wandering the hills as he did, and he came to a place, and the house was empty. So the people who owned the house must have been out in the fields, and he'd come in, and so he's really wishing somebody was there so he could have a cup of tea. And no one was there. He was like, "Oh, I'll just make myself a cup of tea." So he did, and then he noticed his hand going over to grab the tea, and he grabbed his hand and thief. It's like going out, see? And these people came running in, like, where's the thief? He's going off to do something and he shouldn't be doing.
Recognise himself.
Yeah, that his greed had driven his hand into do something that it shouldn't do. Yeah, that's right. So there was another great one too, where he was practicing in a cave, and his benefactor was coming up to see him. So I thought, okay, my benefactor's coming, I better tidy the place up. So he started tidying everything up, made the altar look really good. And then he looked at it and he just thought, well, what have I done? And he grabbed all the ashes from the fire and just threw them all over the altar. And some other great meditator many miles away said, the best offering has been made in Tibet today by this fellow. He did this. So what does this mean? He said, he looked at his mind and said, why am I making these offerings? Why am I tidying the place up? To look good in the eyes of my benefactor. So my benefactor can come in here and look at, oh, what a good meditator he is. He's really working hard.
Isn't that about the intention in throwing them, whether it was a pride intention or whether it was to show honour, which is a humility?
Well, yeah, he noticed that his his way of setting up his altars and preparations were done to please this other person and to make himself look good.
So it's intentional.
Yeah, and he realised his intention was a bad intention. So I can't, Stan Big Gunjal, his name is. So there's lots of stories told about, you see his name come up quite a bit in the text. And you know, he achieved higher realizations just because of his great honesty. He was always checking himself. And I really like that idea, you know, it's like he didn't do the symbolic things that people did. He just thought, it's all coming from the mind. That's what I need to keep an eye on. And like I said, all you have to do is you just turn your attention straight on it. And what you just find is nothing objective, but just attention, mind itself. And it's clear, everything's okay. Impermanence is another thing too that you can use to help yourself. This will change. A very simple thing. This will change. And of course, the change can be brought on so much quicker if you just move your attention. And then you see, oh, it changed.
That's what Corey said about going to the fridge, that if you just wait for the urge to pass, which will be about 60 to 90 seconds, just wait until it changes, and then you can actually make an informed decision instead of a restless decision.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that, you know, with the course that Corey teaches, what's particularly good about that, I think, is that, you know, like, so it requires a sense of courage just to stay in the face of this affliction and understand it can't stay. It won't stay. And to see it, to actually be there and go, wow, it's like it's changed. The urge has disappeared. And again, this is very much like the thing of saying that just place your attention there, see it. Our problems come from our own ideas. That's the major thing, right? So instead of having aversion to the stuff coming up, well, even if it did, just wait. It'll go. It'll go.
Something to help with the waiting, because I find that strong feelings are very sticky and they have so much energy, right? And sometimes it knocks out your capacity to think of your antidotes. I heard something recently from Alan Wallace where he said, look at the space around, because it kind of makes your mind just a wee bit bigger. And it just helps you untangle just a little bit. Whereas when you just focus on, I need to look at my anger or whatever, it can be hard. But if you look at the space a bit more, it gives you a bit more little by little, and then hopefully about 60, 90 seconds will kick in.
Yeah, so there's this guy called his name is called Adyashanti. He's a Western practitioner. And I just saw a post of his up the other day. So he's held in high regard. They said, like, this guy's realised something for sure. But I noticed what he said. I thought that's just like what Byron Katie says. It's the same thing. And that is, when stuff arises, her thing is, you go straight to, is it true? Just ask that question. And that's what you're sort of doing when you're placing your awareness. When you turn to look at, that's what you're looking at, right? You just then use the word. You're saying, is it true? Is this appearance true? You know, all these methods work. All you have to do is just remember and try them out. And like I said, what I love about this material is that it works. So now you know, right? You don't have to believe it. You just have to do it and see what happens. And when you find it works, you go, great, wow, that's the thing for me. I can do that. And there's another type of thing you can do, what's called the four opponent practice, the four opponent powers. So within the four opponent powers, there is regret there. And this is what you might call a skillful regret, or a regret that's rooted in the positive side. Because this is one where you go, wow, something foolish was done. This was an unskillful act. So really do the four opponent powers. You'll use the word I behaved this or I did that. The thing is, don't focus on the I, focus on the activity. Because that's the problem, the activity. It's the acts, the mental acts or physical acts or verbal acts. That's the cause right there. You don't come back and go blame me. Oh, I do that. No, it's the activity. Not an easy thing for us because we're so self-centered, aren't we? To move off the activity and go to me. I am bad. So here's our chance. If you have any questions or anything you'd like to raise about this. Okay, so we'll do a short meditation. And just get comfortable in your seat. And gently close your eyes or let your gaze soften. Let's try and be curious here with a sort of non-judgmental awareness. You're just watching. Well, what do you recollect about restlessness? The restlessness can be expressed through your body, through your speech, through your mind. When it's expressed through the mind, it's a sort of stream of distracting thoughts. And how about regret? What do you recollect about regret? So you have positive forms of regret and negative forms. In other words, negative leading to suffering, regret involved with suffering, or regret involved with virtue. Regret arising from the things you did do, regret arising from the things you did not do. Relate to the past or the future. These negative forms of regret often lead to feelings of guilt and shame and self-reproach. Do you know, or can you recognize your own patterns of restlessness and regret? Now, I think you've all been to the ocean at some stage of your life, or at least seen an ocean. And when you look at the ocean, you see waves rising and falling, rising and falling. They're in a constant state of flux, the waves. Well, our mental states are just like that. They also rise and fall. They appear and they disappear. But the heart of all phenomena is change, impermanence. But could you embrace this ever-changing nature of change? Would you bring to it a sense of equanimity without clinging to pleasure or rejecting pain? So restlessness and regret, they take us out of the present moment. They entangle us in the past or the future. And your freedom is taken from you. Yet our freedom can be regained through simple practices like breath awareness. Awareness that's brought directly to what's happening. And sometimes you can imagine your mind to be as vast as the cloudless sky. And to let thoughts and emotions arise like passing clouds. And those passing clouds often vanish into the cloudless sky. And instead, release your focus, your eyes closed, just blink them, and bring yourself back into the present. And then we'll go and have a look at this serenity practices. So last time we talked about placing the mind on the object. This is the first time as a meditator we try to withdraw the mind from the external objects and place it on an internal object of observation. And as you know, this is not easy to do. And there are different types of objects. So someone should be try and imagine a Buddha. Very much easier thing is just to imagine a little orb of light. So remember, it's an inner object here. To do this, you don't need to close your eyes, but if you find that helps, well, you can. But a thought is an inner object. So you just want to place your mind there. Now this comes about like you've heard about the object. You have some idea of what it looks like or feels like or something like that. And then you try and place it on it. And how do you know that you've actually placed it on this object? Well, one way of measuring it is to count for 21 breaths. In fact, if you use the breath as the object and do the 21 counts, and you've got it.
Oh, and if you count, you haven't.
Yeah.
I never have been.
That's,
I can't, it's 21.
yeah. So what's the number you can get to present?
One,
Yeah.
and it's one over and over.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's okay too.
I received that.
Okay. Yeah. So sometimes it's like to go to 5 and then go backwards. And go 1, You know, so again, so this is different. So you've got to try this out. So it's not when you do the count, it's like you can do the count at the top or do it at the bottom.
Well.
Do you do it on the inhale or do you do it at the exhale?
I've been doing it wrong all these years because I've been going one, two, and like I'm getting, no, breathe, then you count the past breath.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that you can do it either way.
Yeah,
In, out, one.
yeah.
Oh,
That makes all the difference.
Yeah.
No,
but that's a third beat. In, out,
one.
That's it.
Cycle.
Yeah, and that slows it down. Whereas if you go one, in, out, two, it's like you're lifting weights.
Yeah, that's right, isn't it? That's what you do in the weight position. You go 1,
Yeah.
2, right? But with this, it's like on the out breath, it's the release. 1, relax.
And just, it was revolutionary to discover that.
A recap about the conversation. Like just
On the
summarize that
inhale.
conversation for the students because they can't hear what's what's
but
happening.
Oh,
it's not as a separate beat.
So for those on Zoom, right, so Miffy was saying for many years, so she would say on,
No,
No, they can't. On the in breath, so she'd start counting on the in breath, like 1, breathe in, out, 2, breathe in, breathe out.
So ridiculous.
And if you don't know, and you have a natural thing, that's what you do.
That for a while, and then you do that for a while, and then you stop counting, and then you make it a subtle breathing. So I got taught to do both.
Yeah, that's right. This is not so what you want to do is try it out because we're all different. And what's the lovely thing is to notice the difference. What's it like to go 1 first, breathe in, breathe out? What's it like to say it last?
I mean, this
What's
is
it
what
like when you don't count?
Rishi Sharma, because he led us through the meditation and there was the actual detail, he did it out loud.
Yeah.
It was the first time I heard it like that.
And I actually do completely different because I think you taught me one, like I think it was just in a conversation where you go from, you pick a number like 50, but you go 5 on the in breath, 0 on the out breath, 4 on the in breath, and 9. And I find that I track better with that. Whereas if I try to just do one number,
It's like,
so it's like you start from the number 50, but you're going to 1. So on 50, in breath is actually 5 and out is 0. Then it's in breath is 4, then out is 9.
Yeah.
But for me, I can actually train because with the gaps at the start, because my mind is so busy, I just go off the ferry. But once it gets steadier and subtler, then I can drop the counting a bit more and then make it subtler again. So just go to a breath cycle within 1.
But if your mind goes, aren't you supposed to begin the count again? So that's why I'm like 21, I'll never get there.
So I think in the so there's a lot of information. So this meditating on the breath is really covered extensively within the Pali tradition. And that book that I had, one of those books I had up there, it was Zal. There's about 20, maybe about 20 different ways you can meditate on the breath. There's a lot of them. In fact, I just noticed there's a guy, we've got the book in the library. I think I bought a lot of them. And they're all meditating, they're all books about how to meditate with the breath.
and it's also on our website, there's Geshe Sharma's course on this too. Oh, this is the teacher section, yeah.
So you need some instruction, right? And then you try it out. And try and remember that there's many different instructions. If one doesn't work for you, don't fret or try and push too hard. Just say, no, it doesn't work. Is there some other one? And there is. There's lots of them. You're just got to find your way until you find a way that suits you. Now, the major problem here at the beginning, so we've got this 21 breaths, we go, okay, so if I get it there, I've achieved it. What will happen is that you're going to forget the instruction. That's the first big fault. You just forget what you're doing. And so what will often happen is that the object doesn't appear at all. So if you're not counting, so what they say, counting is a very gross, very easy way to do it. And like I say, it's not so much the count you should be focused on, it's the breath. But you'll find the mind wanders off to the count, right? And you forget, it's like, what am I meant to do? That's the breath. And the count is just on the side. Right? I'm meant to be focused on my breath. But the way the mind works is, the counting is so prominent, you go off to the numbers. Right? But the numbers just to sort of help you. So sometimes, what I often do is sit there and just move a finger like that and go, one. So I don't count it, I just move my fingers. And the one hand, that's 5. Close it up again, next 5. So you could, other people use manas. They use the manas to do it. But they're just little helpful things. The major thing is, what's the object? Is it the number? Is it the breath? Or is it a white light? What is it? You've got to hold that in mind. Now, what happens, of course, is the mind moves off to something else. And like I love the process, like this is not a bad thing. This is natural. It doesn't matter if it gets distracted. What's most important is that you know you're distracted and bring it back. That's the major thing, not the fact that you're distracted. The mind isn't naturally distracted. It just moves off to object to object to object. So that's the natural thing. Thing is to bring it back. So this object is what's called the object of observation or the object of focus. There's a technical words they use. Object of observation, object of focus. And what your job is to recognize whether you're on it or you're off it. And if you're off it, bring it back. And like Kari was saying, what can happen to you is if you get a bit tight about this, right? If you've got a competitive nature, that's what happens, right? You're going to be largy-bargy. That's no good because the mind's going to get tight. But what you've got to do is when you notice you're off, is relax. Relax body. Somewhere in this tightness. So relax first and then come back. And do your next breath. And there's a gentle awareness. It's not a tight thing, even though they use the word tight. This means the focus is tight. We've got it. Now, there's an antidote to forgetting. What do you think it might be? Remembering, that's right. Just remember. That's the antidote. Right. They call this remembering mindfulness. There's another technical term. It's just remembering.
It's not like the new age mindfulness, the way we think of it. It's very specific, isn't it? It's just remembering in this context. Anyway.
Yeah. So to remember, you first of all got to have an object that you're familiar with, right? What's the breath? That's what I've got to be familiar with. So I've got that. And then without forgetfulness, I'm trying to become familiar with my breath. That I have a breath and what's it like? But as you get deeper into this, the instructions are sometimes, is it a long breath? Is it a short breath? Is it a warm breath? Is it a cold breath? You don't need to ask these questions, but you become aware of your breath because your attention is there. So attention's got a quality called knowing. So it starts to know its object.
Isn't then once you start focusing on the breath like that, then you jump around within the breath, like hot or cold or long or short. So you're in the vicinity of your object of meditation, but your mind's still jumping around on all the different components.
Well, it could be. That's often what they do when you do visualize that, when you visualize them,
Yeah.
But if you're just feeling, not necessarily, you don't need to articulate it, in other words. You just feel it.
Perception.
Yeah, perception, right? It's just like I'm sitting here and I can, you guys are too, you're sitting where you are, you can feel what your buttocks feel like on the seat, right? You don't need to go, oh, that's hard and that's a bit bumpy. You don't need to do all that. You know what it feels like, right? Just the same with the breath. You can know when it's the right breath is ragged or it's short or it's, it's deep or it's relaxed. You don't, this is, quality of the mind is to know. So you don't need to add on top of it a description. When we did the numbering, that's like real beginner stuff, really beginning. You articulate.
Words.
No, you don't need to use words. Sometimes, of course, you can make your meditation object a word, right, or a short phrase. That's just another object. But the thing is, like, to place your mind on it, notice when it's gone off or it's on it, and don't end up, but how is it on it? Is it clear to you? Are you holding it tightly, or is it sometimes there, sometimes not? All this sort of stuff you've got to sort of bring into it.
So that's when traditions recite mantras, they're holding the word, like mantra.
Yeah, sometimes they hold the sound, sometimes they try and hold the sound and the appearance of the mantra. Yeah. So mindfulness is really important. Remembering is even simpler, because I just need to remember what I'm doing. And so Shantinanda says that if, with the rope of remembrance or mindfulness's rope, the elephant of mind is tethered all around, our fears will come to nothing, and every virtue will drop into our hands. So from that book, Study and Practice of Meditation, says the question is, what is mindfulness? It is a non-forgetfulness of mind with respect to a familiar thing. It has the function of causing non-distraction. So there's the three parts that make up mindfulness. Non-forgetfulness, familiar thing, function, be not distracted. So it's not particularly about Corey's course. You try and make it simple. Get it as simple as you possibly can, and then you can go out afterwards into all the complexities. Oftentimes it's presented to us, seems quite complex, so we've got to bring it down to the most simplest things and go, that's what I'm doing. Then you can go out again. So let's do a breathing meditation. Right? So 5 breaths. But don't count. Maybe just use your fingers if you want to. You'll learn, or whatever, but you just need to do 5 breaths and see how you do it. Just, we're gonna breathe 5 times and we're going to notice, what's that like? And my attention is on my breath, so go. And when you've done 5, just lay your eyes open. So, what did you notice? Niffy?
I use my fingers instead of counting. That was much better. So
Okay.
I get totally sucked into the numbers instead of the breath otherwise.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was just because thinking about it all beforehand, but I could actually keep my mind on it, on the breath.
Right. Anybody else?
You notice that my in breath is longer than my out breath.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't extend the out breath.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm often saying you need to, well, you don't need to, but one of the practices is to have a longer outburst than
That's
the
why I know,
inburst.
that's why I'm
Yeah. So you notice that. Yeah. Anybody else? There's a lot going on, at least for me there is. I'm finding, wow, there's all this sort of thinking, even though I'm breathing, and I know I'm on my breath, I also know it's like this, my mind starts talking about it too. Yeah, I mean, three, even though I'm breathing, I also know I'm controlling my breath. I'm not breathing naturally. So it's like,
I become very aware of where it goes, doesn't go in my body.
yeah,
What moves and what doesn't move.
yeah.
And then I always get it like, I don't think that's right. You should be like doing like breathing right. Yeah, but I love it. You have that thought and I'm doing really good.
Yeah, that's right. So this is,
I'm so stressed. Am I not like which thing comes first?
yeah. So this is really shows you the quality of your breathing, right? Because right with the breathing is all this other stuff going along. So that shows the object is not clear. We're doing it, but not all that well. And so what's telling us about all the not well is called introspection.
Well, I only got to 3, but I did 4 different methods. I on the in, I tried after the out, and I think I changed. Like I've got one that I do when I'm trying to get to sleep, and that I usually and that's counting down from 10. I usually do it on and the out. And I think that doing it after the out is a variation of on the out.
Yeah.
So I think it's in, out, one, in, out, like it's to speak is out with breath. So it's actually natural to put your number on.
As long as you don't do that and then go to sleep in the meditation, it's true.
Yeah.
But then again, it depends. Like
They have qualities.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, so this is the thing to be aware of. That even though you are on the object, you are aware that you are breathing. This other mind, the mindfulness element goes like, what's the quality of the mindfulness? What's the quality of your recollection? This is also important.
I find it extremely difficult. It's so much easier to imagine.
Okay. Yeah.
Or anticipation, like after you've taken the out breath and there's that space,
Yeah.
you're like, when's the in breath coming? When's the in breath coming? And you're just like, and then I was like, you don't have to do anything, isn't it? The body will breathe itself, but I just noticed that when's it happening? When's it happening?
Yeah, so this is where it can become, more exciting, interesting. It's like I try and maintain that sense of curiosity, just like I don't know. Just go, well, the only way you find out is by you do it. And you just watch. And then you can laugh a little at your own mind and what you do. And actually, I remember Corey doing this thing, so he was at a university in Sydney, and he was able to do, the 21 breaths or whatever, and they said, this is great, and he was going, no, it's not. And no one asked him about the quality. So is that, sure, you've got to be able to do it, but then what's even more important, as you find, is the quality. What's the quality of the awareness of the object?
What do you mean by that he can keep us some partial awareness on the breath for the 21 breaths without being distracted, but there's a part of awareness that's still being distracted.
Yeah, it's like me. You sit here, like you're saying, so I'm counting my breaths, so now I'm on the breath. but there's this like, what's going on between this breath and that breath, and for me, I got this thinking going on, dialogue going on. I know I'm on the breath, I'm still on the breath.
Because I just started wondering, so I'm like, well, that was filled up breath, so maybe that's why I can't get it.
So like I said, so we can do it, the 21 times, we go, okay, there it is. So, and remember here, this is not so much the quality, this is just putting it on. Quality comes. So don't try to go for quality straight off. Just try and put it on the object. And so when it goes off, we put it back on. And this is called continuously setting the mind back on its object. So, and this comes about through reflecting or thinking about this object. And you do that quite naturally when you're interested, when you're curious. Because then you say, wow, I did this, my mind was doing this, my mind was doing that. I was breathing, I knew I was breathing, I could still go in and out, but there's this other stuff going on. Right, so we reflect. But what is it like? What's it like to do that? And so what's your work? How do you accomplish this stage? Is the length of focus on the object has increased. So now it's not 21 breaths, it's like a minute. So it's like, and no distraction here, you're not off, you're on the object for that minute.
So
clearly on it.
you might be badly on the object,
But you ask, that's right, that's right, you have a continuity of the object. You haven't flipped off to lunch tonight or something, or dinner tonight, or something else, right? You're there. And this is seen by the rabbits now, the elephant is now sort of running, trotting along, not trotting, walking. It began by running, so that means your mind is running on. But now it's sort of walking, and you can see it's got a little white spot on its head. And that's because that white stuff symbolises your ability to put the mind on the object. As it began, the elephant was completely black, right, and was running away from it, and the monk was chasing it. Right? So he's still chasing it, right? And he's still got this blindness and this vigilance in his hands. The mind is still getting away from him. But now, so you can still stay on the object for at least a minute. Not many other times are soft, but you can hold it for a minute. This is where we can say we are concentrated now. And again, your understanding deepens because of this reflective capacity. So I think this is like getting good at sort of anything. Like if you get good at something, it's because you're curious about it. You want to know about this thing.
So this isn't just meditation, this is learning anything.
Anything, but this is this is one of the things about learning something is to be concentrated on what you're learning, isn't it? And we often find that quite easy. And but the objects are usually external to us. Here the object's internal, which makes it a little difficult. It's easy to have all our senses going outward on something.
Yeah.
But here, no, it's just the mental sense. So with continuous setting, we have problems and we have solutions. Our problems are basically laziness. You don't want to do it. It's not that interesting to you yet. Right? But this is what makes it really interesting. To have conviction in what you're doing and have an aspiration, because there's a goal here. If you know what the goal is and you want that goal, you will wish to achieve it. So wishing to achieve it will overcome laziness. You also have forgetting, because you still do forget the object. You know what you meant to do, but the mind wanders off. So you have to reflect again with bringing to it mindfulness. remembrance. And what this says, like, tighten the focus. So tighten the focus just means you want the object to appear more clearly to you. Okay, so one of the major problems here with this, especially as a beginner, you probably just wait for the meditation session to do it. But you've got to remember, the object's the breath, or even an internal object. Wherever you are, your mind is there. So you can cultivate your object wherever you are. If you just wait for the sessions, it's going to take a very long time. The session is just for you to go, okay, for this period of time, I'm definitely in on it. I'm committing this time for it. But like I said, wherever you are, you're not, it's not that your mind is full of other objects all the time, is it? So that's another time you can go, just for a couple of breaths, I'll try and see my object clearly. If it's the breath, I'll try and, focus on it. So Cassie too, just even in one breath. If you know I can do one breath, then do one breath. Do it focused on one breath. You know what one breath feels like. You could tell me all about it. I know about my one breath. It's like this, right?
I build it into my work routine. So I have to go up and down elevators in my job to get from one place to another in the hospital. So now it's become like when I go on the elevator, I go, take a breath. Because I'm going to be crazy the rest of the time running around, right? But you train yourself. So you build it into whatever your work routine is. Something you do all the time that's really mundane. Take a breath.
Oh, it's definitely.
Yeah.
So there are so one of the things of not being fatigued is you bring a sense of joy into it. And the joy arises because you have a good idea of what the goal is. And like you're saying, if you do it on the elevators or the Cassie, just find the moment to do the one breath. A series of breaths is just a series of one breaths. 21 breaths is just 21 times. So do one. Do one wherever you are. You're always doing one in the next one and the next one. And when you do one well, like, hey, feel good about it, and just forget about it. It's like, hey, this is one good one. You don't have to do the next good one. So one of the things that will distract you from your object is the objects of frivolity.
Something more fun than just breathing.
That's right. That's right. Something more fun than the object. and understand it. We're trying to develop a path. So here again, you might need to remind yourself, well, what do I mean? What's a path? What is that? So it's a path. Here we're talking about mental paths. Right? So a way of moving the mind where you want it to go. Having the mind do what you want it to. That's your path. But when the mind goes off somewhere else, it's not on a path, right? It's in the wilderness. That's kind of where it wants to go.
So is that like if you're going to be distracted, at least be daydreaming about Dharma stuff rather than daydreaming about going to Luna Park? Is that?
Yeah, you could do that, yeah. And the same here like with the breath, right? So you're going to go to Luna Park, right? Maybe just before going in, take a deep breath. Right? There's all these places you can. So in the Nyingma tradition in particular, these meditations where they try and cultivate awareness. The advice there is never long sessions, brief sessions. And what you do is this is what happens over time is your moments of awareness get longer and longer and longer. And all you end up is they join up. You do one here, you do one there, you one there, you know, and you become familiar with it. You can do it. You know what it feels like. You like it. You do it again. You do it again. You find all these spaces that you just, because your mind is, you're always with your mind, right? Somewhere else. And this is the side of you turning in and going, well, I want to know what the heck this thing is called mind. It's creating everything. And I'm always looking out there at the creations of it, rather than like, what's the creator? So you need to uphold a path, a way of being. So when you're not actually in these sessions, you know, guard your vows. So like a vow might be just a promise that each time you go up to the elevator, you ride the elevator, you do this thing. In thought transformation, you make these always a whole lot of vows of thought transformation. But you can make it as like each time I go, every morning I get up, I go to the loo, this is what I say. This is how I approach it, this is how I think about it. When I get out of bed, my feet have to go on the floor, so what do I say? But these are your vows, these are the promises you make to yourself to cultivate this way of thinking and being. You try to accumulate as many causes as you possibly can, but really, you know, the major thing is guard your senses, because your senses will distract you, will take you away from your inner world, from your path. And like I said, continue engaging. Like so I see you guys week after week, so you're engaging. And when you're at home and you're studying, you're engaging. When you're out and about, you take a moment to become aware of your breath, you're engaging. You just need to keep doing this. Now, of course, I've gone over. That's what's interesting. He's not really used to start all And our meditation, well, we've done it. But again, like even here, the idea is to come back to your object. Whatever you've set yourself for, if it's the breath, wherever you go, you'll be breathing. Just decide to become aware of what the breath is like. Take a full breath with awareness. So we know some ideas about what restlessness are, regret, and what forgetfulness is. And the antidote for forgetfulness is remember. Remember. Mindfulness. Remember, memory, mindfulness, all these words. There's a positive regret and there's ways of regretting that aren't useful. Try to stay on the positive side. Restlessness, you know, your body, speech, or mind will be distracted. They're busy. A really simple way to calm them down is just come back to the breath. We've got 2 steps to stabilize the mind. The first time we say you've got it, you hold on for 21 breaths. Next one is like a minute or two, between 1 minute and 2 minutes. So I know when I do 21 breaths, it's way over a minute. I just start breathing so slowly. So there's a chart called the 9 stages, and there's also a synopsis, so there's a bit of a discussion about what each stage is like. If you can't find it or find it difficult, don't worry, because we'll come to it anyway. We'll go through these 9 stages ourselves. And next we're going to be looking at these other couple of opponents or hindrances called excitement and distraction, and the antidote student. And we'll look at some of the ways of meditating using analysis. So we can put the mind on an object and we can think about it while it's on, or we can think about something and then go into absorption. Well, come to you. So let's meditate. In other words, just saying, hey, this is what we've done. We've got a good reason for doing it. I want what we've done to go in that direction. So due to the merits of these virtuous actions, they are quickly attain the state of a Guru and Buddha, and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme dual body Chitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, not increase forevermore. And as long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, may our two remain to dispel the sorrows of the world. In holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable animal Guru, to you and make this witness. So, thank you everybody. Apologies for the lateness and thank you for those online.